Maya Chen had always been the kind of kid who seemed invisible. You know the type. The one who sits at the back of the classroom, never raises her hand, and somehow manages to blend into the walls. At 8 years old, she had already mastered the art of disappearing, even when she was right there in plain sight. Every morning, Maya would walk into Lincoln Elementary with her head down, clutching her worn backpack close to her chest. Her thick glasses, held together with a small piece of tape, would slide down her nose as she hurried to her seat. The other kids barely glanced her way. To them, she was just part of the furniture, as unremarkable as the faded posters on the classroom walls. During lunchtime, while other children gathered in excited groups, sharing snacks and laughing loudly, Maya would find her usual spot at the corner table near the window. She would unwrap her simple peanut butter sandwich, the same lunch she brought every day, and eat slowly while watching the world go by. Sometimes she would see her classmates pointing in her direction, whispering behind their hands, but she pretended not to notice. It was easier that way. Maya's clothes told their own story. While other kids wore the latest sneakers and trendy outfits, she wore hand-me-downs from her older cousin who lived 3 states away. Her jeans were too long and had to be rolled up at the bottom. Her sweaters had tiny holes that she tried to hide by pulling her sleeves down. But kids notice everything, don't they? They notice when your shoes are from last season, when your lunchbox is dented, when you don't have the cool pencil case that everyone else seems to have. The worst part wasn't the old clothes or the simple lunches. The worst part was feeling like she didn't matter. When the teacher asked for volunteers to help with classroom projects, hands would shoot up all around her, but Maya would keep hers firmly planted on her desk. When kids picked teams for games during recess, she was always chosen last, not because she was bad at sports, but because people simply forgot she was there. At home, things were different, but not necessarily easier. Maya's mom worked 2 jobs just to keep their small apartment. She cleaned offices early in the morning before most people were even awake, then rushed home to get Maya ready for school, and then headed off to her afternoon job at the local grocery store. By the time she got home in the evening, she was so tired that she could barely keep her eyes open during dinner. Maya understood even at 8 years old that her mom was doing her best. She never complained about the simple meals or the fact that they couldn't afford the things other families had. But sometimes, in the quiet moments before she fell asleep, she would wonder what it would be like to have someone ask her about her day, to have someone notice when she was sad or happy or excited about something. There was one place where Maya felt truly alive, though nobody at school knew about it. In her small bedroom, with its faded pink wallpaper and squeaky wooden floor, Maya had a secret world. Her grandmother's old radio sat on her nightstand, a gift from before her grandmother had passed away 2 years earlier. Every afternoon when she finished her homework, Maya would tune into the oldies station and listen to the songs her grandmother had loved, and then she would sing. When Maya sang, something magical happened. Her quiet, timid voice would transform into something rich and powerful. She would close her eyes and let the music carry her away from her small room, away from the loneliness, away from feeling invisible. Her voice would soar with songs from decades past, ballads about love and loss, uplifting spirituals that made her feel connected to something bigger than herself, and folk songs that told stories of people who had overcome great challenges. Her favorite song was Amazing Grace. Her grandmother had taught it to her during one of their last visits together. "This song has power, little one," her grandmother had said, her weathered hands gentle on Maya's shoulders. "It can heal hearts and bring people together. Your voice has that same power, don't you ever forget that." But at school, Maya kept this part of herself locked away. During music class, she would mouth the words to songs instead of actually singing, afraid that someone might notice her and make fun of her. During assemblies, when the whole school sang the national anthem, her lips would move silently. She had convinced herself that her bedroom performances were just silly fantasies, that her grandmother had only been kind when she praised her singing. The other kids in her class had no idea that the quiet girl who sat alone at lunch had such a gift. They saw her humming softly to herself sometimes during quiet reading time, but they assumed it was just nervous habit, the kind of thing shy kids do when they're uncomfortable. If anyone had bothered to listen closely, they might have noticed that Maya wasn't just humming random tunes. She was creating beautiful melodies, weaving harmonies that seemed to float through the air like gentle whispers. Maya's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, was kind, but overwhelmed with a classroom of 30 energetic third graders. She noticed that Maya was quiet and well-behaved, always turning in her assignments on time, never causing trouble. But like everyone else, she didn't see past the surface. She didn't see the girl who spent hours perfecting songs in her bedroom, who had memorized dozens of classic tunes, who could make grown-ups cry with the emotion in her voice. As spring approached and talk of the school recital began, Maya felt the familiar pang of being left out. Every year she watched from the audience as her classmates performed their talents. Some played piano pieces they had learned in lessons their parents paid for. Others did dance routines they had practiced at expensive studios. And some showed off magic tricks they had learned from YouTube videos on their family computers. Maya would sit in the back row of the auditorium with the few other kids whose parents couldn't make it to the evening performance, watching as families cheered proudly for their children. She would applaud politely, but inside she would wonder what it would feel like to have people cheer for her, to have her moment in the spotlight, to show everyone that she was more than just the quiet girl in the corner. But this year would be different, though Maya didn't know it yet. This year, her carefully guarded secret was about to be discovered in the most unexpected way. The invisible girl was about to become impossible to ignore, and it would all start with a group of popular kids who thought they were playing a harmless prank. Sometimes the biggest changes in our lives come from the smallest moments. A conversation, overheard, a chance encounter, a decision made in the heat of the moment. For Maya Chen, that moment was coming soon, and it would change everything she thought she knew about herself and her place in the world. The spring air was crisp that Tuesday morning when Mrs. Rodriguez made the announcement that would change everything for Maya. She stood at the front of the classroom, her hands clasped together with excitement as she told the third graders about the upcoming spring recital. "This year's talent show is going to be extra special," she said, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "Every student will have the chance to showcase what makes them unique. We'll have the auditorium for the whole evening, and all your families are invited to come watch." The classroom buzzed with excitement immediately. Kids started whispering to each other about what they wanted to perform. Tommy raised his hand to volunteer his drum solo. Rachel mentioned her ballet routine. Kevin talked about his magic tricks that he'd been practicing for months. Maya sat quietly at her desk, watching the excitement unfold around her. She felt that familiar feeling, like she was watching life happen to other people while she remained on the outside looking in. Her fingers traced the edge of her notebook as she listened to her classmates plan their performances. During recess that day, the usual groups formed on the playground. The popular kids gathered near the swing sets, while others spread out across the yard. Maya found her typical spot under the old oak tree near the fence, pulling out a library book to read. She liked this spot because it was quiet, and she could observe everything without being noticed. That's when she saw them, the group that everyone wanted to be part of. There was Jessica, with her perfect blonde ponytail and designer sneakers that probably cost more than Maya's mom made in a week. Next to her stood Chloe, whose lunchbox was always filled with fancy snacks that other kids envied. Then there was Ashley, who lived in the biggest house in town and always had the latest everything. Maya had never really paid much attention to their conversations before, but today something was different. They kept glancing in her direction, while they whispered among themselves. Every few minutes one of them would look over at Maya, then turn back to the group with a giggle. "Have you guys noticed that weird girl over there?" Jessica said, not bothering to lower her voice much. "She's always humming during quiet time, like all the time." "Yeah, I've heard her too," Chloe added. "She probably thinks she's some kind of singer or something." Ashley laughed. "Can you imagine her trying to sing in front of people? That would be hilarious." Maya felt her cheeks burn as she realized they were talking about her. She tried to focus on her book, but the words blurred together as she strained to hear what they were saying. "You know what would be funny?" Jessica's voice carried across the playground. "What if we asked her to sing at the recital, like actually convinced her to get up there and embarrass herself in front of the whole school? The other girls erupted in giggles. "That's brilliant," Ashley whispered. "She's so desperate to fit in, she'd probably do it." And everyone would. "See how weird she really is," Chloe added. "It would be the funniest thing ever." Maya's heart sank as she understood their plan. They weren't interested in her talent or giving her a chance to shine. They wanted to make fun of her, to turn her into entertainment for their own amusement. But even knowing this, a small part of her wondered, what if this was her only chance to show people what she could really do? The rest of recess passed in a blur. Maya tried to read her book, but she couldn't concentrate. The girls kept looking over at her and whispering, occasionally bursting into laughter. She felt like a zoo animal being observed and discussed. When the bell rang, everyone headed back inside. Maya packed up her book slowly, hoping to avoid the group of girls. But as she walked toward the school building, she heard footsteps behind her. "Hey, Maya," Jessica called out in a voice that was suddenly sweet and friendly. "Wait up." Maya turned around, surprised to hear her name. Jessica almost never talked to her directly. In fact, Maya wasn't even sure Jessica knew her name until that moment. "Hi," Maya said quietly, adjusting her glasses nervously. "So, we were talking about the talent show," Jessica said, putting on her brightest smile. "And we think it would be really cool if you participated this year." Maya blinked, not sure she had heard correctly. "Me?" "Yeah, you," Ashley chimed in, joining the conversation. "We've noticed that you're always humming during class. You must really love music." "We think you should sing something at the recital," Chloe added, barely containing her giggles. "It would be so interesting." Maya felt her heart start to race. Was this really happening? Were the popular girls actually asking her to be part of the talent show? She had dreamed of performing for so long, but she had never imagined it would happen like this. I don't know," Maya stammered. "I've never sung in front of people before." "That's what makes it exciting," Jessica exclaimed. "Come on, it'll be fun. Everyone deserves a chance to show what they can do, right?" The other girls nodded enthusiastically, their faces showing nothing but encouragement and support. If Maya had been more experienced with social situations, she might have noticed the barely contained smirks, the way they exchanged meaningful glances when they thought she wasn't looking. But Maya was so surprised and hopeful that someone actually wanted to include her that she missed all the warning signs. "What would I sing?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Whatever you want," Jessica said. "What's your favorite song?" Maya thought immediately of her grandmother's favorite, the song that always made her feel closest to the woman who had believed in her voice. "Amazing Grace," she said softly. "Perfect," Ashley said. "That's such a classic choice." The girls exchanged another look that Maya didn't catch. Amazing Grace was exactly the kind of old-fashioned serious song that would make their prank even funnier. They could already imagine the audience's reaction to this shy, awkward girl attempting such a powerful song. "So you'll do it?" Jessica pressed. "You'll sign up for the talent show?" Maya felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff. Every logical part of her brain told her this was too good to be true, that these girls had never shown any interest in her before, that something wasn't right about this sudden invitation. But the lonely part of her heart, the part that had been waiting so long for someone to notice her, was screaming, "Yes. Okay," she said finally. "I'll do it." The girls erupted in cheers that seemed genuine enough to fool Maya completely. They patted her on the back and told her how excited they were to hear her sing. They made her promise to practice hard and put on a great show. As they walked back into school together, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. The feeling of belonging. She was part of something now. She had been chosen, included, invited to be special. But behind her, the three girls exchanged triumphant smiles. Their plan was working perfectly. In just a few weeks, Maya Chen would stand on that stage in front of the entire school, and everyone would finally see her for what she really was, just another weird kid who didn't belong. They had no idea that they were about to unleash something far beyond their imagination. The days following Maya's agreement to perform felt like a strange dream. For the first time in her school life, she had something to look forward to, something that made her feel important. But with that excitement came a growing knot of anxiety in her stomach that seemed to get tighter with each passing day. That evening, Maya rushed home with an energy her mother hadn't seen in months. She burst through the front door of their small apartment, her backpack hitting the floor with a thud as she ran to her bedroom. Her mom, Lisa, was heating up leftover soup on the stove, still wearing her work uniform from the grocery store. "Maya, is everything okay?" Lisa called out, surprised by her daughter's sudden burst of energy. Maya poked her head out of her bedroom doorway, her eyes bright with excitement. "Mom, I'm going to sing at the school talent show." Lisa almost dropped her spoon. Her quiet, shy daughter who barely spoke above a whisper at home was going to perform in front of people? "Really? Are you sure about this, sweetheart?" "Some kids at school asked me to do it," Maya explained, not mentioning the real reason behind their invitation. "I'm going to sing Amazing Grace like Grandma taught me." At the mention of her late mother, Lisa's expression softened. She remembered how her mom used to sing that old hymn while cooking dinner, her voice filling their childhood home with warmth and comfort. If Maya wanted to honor her grandmother's memory this way, who was she to discourage her? "Well, if you're sure about this," Lisa said gently, "then you better practice hard." And practice Maya did. Every afternoon when she got home from school, she would close her bedroom door and sing her heart out. She would stand in front of her small mirror, pretending it was an audience, and pour every emotion she had into the song. Her voice grew stronger and more confident with each practice session. But at school, things were getting complicated. Word had spread quickly about Maya's upcoming performance, and not in the way she had hoped. Kids would point at her in the hallways and whisper to their friends. During lunch, she would catch groups of students looking in her direction and snickering. "Can you believe she actually thinks she can sing?" she overheard one boy say to his friends near the water fountain. "This is going to be so embarrassing," another girl whispered loud enough for Maya to hear. "I almost feel bad for her." The comments stung, but Maya tried to push them aside. She told herself that people were just surprised because they didn't know her very well. Once they heard her sing, everything would change. They would see that she wasn't just the quiet, invisible girl they thought she was. Jessica, Chloe, and Ashley kept up their act of supportive friends, but their encouragement felt different now. They would approach Maya with big smiles and ask how her practice was going, but there was something in their eyes that made Maya's stomach twist. "You're still planning to sing Amazing Grace, right?" Jessica asked one day during art class, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Such an interesting choice for someone your age." "It was my grandmother's favorite song," Maya replied quietly, focusing on her painting to avoid eye contact. "Oh, that's so sweet," Ashley chimed in. "I'm sure it'll be very memorable." The girls exchanged looks that Maya caught this time, and a chill ran down her spine. She was starting to realize that their friendship might not be as genuine as she had hoped, but she had come too far to back out now. Her name was already on the list of performers, and Mrs. Rodriguez had announced it to the class. There was no turning back. As the days passed, Maya's practice sessions became more intense. She would sing until her throat was sore, trying to perfect every note, every breath, every emotion in the song. Sometimes her mother would pause outside her bedroom door and listen, amazed by the beautiful voice coming from her daughter's room. But she never said anything, not wanting to make Maya self-conscious. The worst part wasn't the mean comments or the fake friends. The worst part was the doubt that started creeping into Maya's mind late at night when she couldn't sleep. She would stare at the ceiling and wonder if maybe everyone was right. Maybe she wasn't as good as she thought. Maybe her grandmother had just been kind when she praised her singing. Maybe this whole thing was a terrible mistake. One particularly rough day, Maya overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. She was in the bathroom stall when Jessica and her friends came in, not knowing she was there. "I can't wait for the talent show," Jessica said, checking her reflection in the mirror. "This is going to be the funniest thing ever." "I know, right?" Chloe laughed. "Did you see how excited she got when we asked her to perform? She totally fell for it." "My dad is bringing his good camera," Ashley added. "We'll have the whole thing recorded. It'll be hilarious to watch over and over again. Maya's heart sank as she realized the full extent of their plan. They weren't just expecting her to fail. They were planning to record it and probably share it with everyone. She felt like she might throw up as she listened to them laugh about her upcoming humiliation. She's been practicing so hard too, Jessica continued, which makes it even funnier. Like, does she really think she has a chance? The best part is that she chose such a serious song, Chloe added. Amazing Grace? Really? It's going to be so cringeworthy. They left the bathroom still giggling, leaving Maya alone in the stall with tears streaming down her face. She sat there for a long time trying to decide what to do. Should she back out? Should she pretend to be sick on the day of the talent show? Should she confront them about what she had heard? But then she thought about her grandmother, about the hours they had spent together singing that song. She remembered the way her grandmother's face would light up when Maya sang, the way she would clap her hands and say, "You have a gift, little one. Don't ever let anyone make you forget that." That night, Maya practiced harder than ever. If these girls wanted to humiliate her, she wasn't going to make it easy for them. She was going to give everything she had to that song. Not for them, not for the audience, but for her grandmother and for herself. Her mother noticed the change in Maya's demeanor. She seemed more determined but also more stressed. Lisa wanted to ask what was wrong, but she was exhausted from working double shifts and barely had energy for conversation by the time she got home each night. The talent show was now only 3 days away, and Maya could feel the weight of everyone's expectations pressing down on her. Kids at school had started making bets about how badly she would mess up. Some were even planning to bring friends from other classes to watch the spectacle. But Maya had made up her mind. She was going to walk onto that stage and sing Amazing Grace with everything she had. Whatever happened after that, at least she would know she had tried. At least she would have honored her grandmother's memory and given her voice the chance it deserved. She had no idea that in 3 days, everything she thought she knew about herself and her place in the world was about to change forever. The palm joke that was supposed to be on her was about to become something entirely different. The invisible girl was about to become impossible to ignore, and the bullies who thought they were so clever were about to learn a lesson they would never forget. The morning of the talent show arrived gray and cloudy, matching Maya's nervous mood perfectly. She had barely slept the night before, tossing and turning as her mind raced through everything that could go wrong. Now, sitting at the breakfast table with a bowl of cereal she couldn't bring herself to eat, Maya felt like her stomach was doing backflips. Her mother noticed her picking at her food and sat down across from her. "Nervous about tonight?" Lisa asked gently, reaching over to squeeze Maya's hand. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice to stay steady if she tried to speak. Her throat felt tight, and she wondered if she would even be able to sing when the time came. "You know what your grandmother used to tell me when I was scared?" Lisa said, her voice soft with memory. "She'd say that butterflies in your stomach just mean you're about to do something important, something that matters." Maya looked up at her mother with watery eyes. "What if I mess up? What if everyone laughs at me?" Lisa's heart ached seeing her daughter so worried. "Sweetheart, you have the most beautiful voice I've ever heard. And more importantly, you're singing from your heart. That's all that matters." School that day, Maya could barely concentrate on her lessons. Math problems blurred together on the page, and during reading time, she found herself staring at the same sentence over and over without understanding what it said. Every few minutes, she would glance at the clock, watching the minutes tick by toward evening. The other kids seemed extra excited today. There was a buzz of energy in the classroom as everyone talked about the talent show. Maya heard snippets of conversations around her, kids discussing which acts they were most excited to see, parents texting about what time to arrive, teachers making last-minute preparations. But Maya also noticed the looks, the sideways glances, the whispered conversations that stopped when she walked by, the barely contained giggles when her name was mentioned. By lunchtime, it felt like the entire school knew about her upcoming performance, and most of them seemed to think it was going to be some kind of comedy show. Jessica and her friends found Maya sitting alone at her usual table, picking at her sandwich. Big night tonight, Jessica said in her fake, cheerful voice. Are you ready for your debut performance? I guess, Maya mumbled, not looking up from her lunch. Oh, don't be modest, Ashley chimed in. I heard from my mom that tons of people are coming tonight. Way more than usual. Everyone wants to see what Lincoln Elementary's got to offer. Maya's stomach dropped even further. More people meant more witnesses to her potential humiliation. She had been hoping for a small, quiet audience, but it sounded like half the town might show up. Just remember to project your voice, Chloe added with mock helpfulness. You want to make sure everyone in the back row can hear you clearly. After they left, giggling among themselves, Maya pushed her lunch away completely. She couldn't eat another bite. The rest of the school day dragged by painfully slowly. Maya watched other kids who were performing get called out of class for final rehearsals and sound checks. She wondered if she should have practiced on the actual stage, gotten familiar with the microphone and the lights. But it was too late now. When the final bell rang, Maya gathered her things with shaking hands. Tonight was really happening. In just a few hours, she would be standing on that stage in front of everyone she knew, plus many people she didn't know, attempting to sing a song that meant everything to her. At home, Maya tried to rest, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. She practiced the song one more time in her bedroom, but her voice came out shaky and weak. Panic started to set in. What if her voice cracked? What if she forgot the words? What if she froze up completely? Her mother helped her pick out her nicest outfit, a simple blue dress that had been her grandmother's favorite color. As Lisa brushed Maya's hair, she could feel her daughter trembling. Remember, Lisa said softly, your grandmother is watching over you tonight. She believed in your voice, and so do I. They arrived at the school as the sun was setting. The parking lot was fuller than Maya had ever seen it, with cars lining the street and people walking toward the building in small groups. Maya's heart pounded as she realized just how many people were going to witness whatever was about to happen. Inside the auditorium, the energy was electric. Families filled the seats, chatting excitedly and taking pictures. Kids who were performing peeked out from behind the curtain, waving at their parents and grandparents. Maya looked for her mother in the audience and spotted her in the middle section, giving her an encouraging smile and a thumbs up. Backstage was chaos. Kids in costumes ran around. Teachers tried to organize the lineup, and parents helped with last-minute preparations. Maya found a quiet corner and tried to calm her nerves by humming her song softly to herself. Maya Chen? A teacher with a clipboard found her. You're number 12 on the list. You'll go on after Kevin's magic show and before the dance trio. Maya nodded, her mouth too dry to speak. Number 12. She counted in her head. That meant she had about 40 minutes to wait. 40 minutes to either calm down or completely fall apart. She watched from the side of the stage as the first few acts performed. Tommy's drum solo was energetic and got the crowd clapping along. Rachel's ballet routine was graceful and beautiful, earning loud applause from her proud family. A fifth grader played piano, and another group of kids performed a comedy skit that had everyone laughing. Maya noticed that Jessica, Chloe, and Ashley had managed to get seats in the very front row, their phones already out and ready. They kept looking toward the stage area where Maya was waiting, smirking and whispering to each other. But she also noticed other faces in the crowd. Her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, looked genuinely excited to see all her students perform. There were grandparents with kind eyes, little siblings bouncing in their seats with excitement, and parents holding up phones to record their children's special moments. As Maya's turn approached, her heart started beating so fast she worried everyone could hear it. Kevin finished his magic show to enthusiastic applause and bounded off the stage, grinning from ear to ear. The teacher with the clipboard looked at Maya. You're up next, honey. Are you ready? Maya took a deep breath and nodded, even though she felt anything but ready. She walked to the edge of the stage and waited for her introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, the teacher announced into the microphone, please welcome Maya Chen, who will be performing Amazing Grace. The applause was polite but scattered. Maya could hear some murmurs from the audience, people who didn't recognize her name, wondering who this girl was. In the front row, Jessica and her friends had their phones held high, ready to capture every moment of what they expected to be Maya's complete failure. Maya stepped onto the stage, and suddenly the auditorium felt enormous. The lights were brighter than she had expected, making it hard to see individual faces in the audience. The microphone stand seemed impossibly tall, and when she reached for it with trembling hands, it felt cold and foreign. She looked out at the sea of faces staring back at her. Some looked curious, some looked bored, and some, especially in the front row, looked like they were waiting for entertainment of the wrong kind. Maya's mouth went completely dry, and for a terrifying moment, she couldn't remember the first words of the song. The auditorium fell silent, not the respectful silence of an audience ready to listen, but the expectant silence of people waiting for something to happen. Maya could practically feel the tension in the room, the collective holding of breath as everyone waited to see what this quiet, unknown girl was going to do. She closed her eyes for just a moment and thought of her grandmother. She thought of all those afternoons spent singing together in the kitchen, of the way her grandmother's face would light up when Maya hit a particularly beautiful note, of the words her grandmother had spoken. "Your voice has power, little one." Maya opened her eyes, stepped closer to the microphone, and took the deepest breath of her life. This was it. This was her moment. Whatever happened next would change everything. Maya stood at the microphone, her heart hammering so loud she was sure the entire auditorium could hear it. The bright stage lights made it impossible to see most of the faces in the crowd, but she could feel hundreds of eyes watching her, waiting for her to begin. In the front row, she could just make out Jessica holding up her phone, a smirk playing on her lips as she prepared to record what she expected to be the most embarrassing moment of Maya's life. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever but was probably only a few seconds. Maya could hear someone cough in the back of the auditorium, a baby crying softly somewhere in the middle section, and the rustle of programs as people shifted in their seats. She adjusted the microphone with trembling hands, the metal cold against her palms. For a terrifying moment, Maya's mind went completely blank. She couldn't remember the first line of the song, couldn't remember why she had thought this was a good idea, couldn't remember anything except the crushing weight of all those expectant stares. She felt like running off the stage, disappearing back into her comfortable invisibility where no one could judge her or laugh at her. But then, floating through her panic like a gentle whisper, she heard her grandmother's voice. Not really heard it, of course, but felt it in her heart the way you sometimes do when you need comfort most. "Amazing grace. How sweet the sound." The words came back to her as clearly as if her grandmother was standing right beside her on that stage. Maya closed her eyes and took the deepest breath of her 8-year-old life. When she opened them again, something had changed. The fear was still there, but underneath it was something stronger. The memory of every afternoon spent singing with her grandmother, the feeling of pure joy that music brought her, and the knowledge that she was about to share something beautiful with the world. She leaned into the microphone and began to sing. "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound." The first note that came out of Maya's mouth was nothing like what anyone in that auditorium had expected to hear. It wasn't the shaky, nervous voice of a shy little girl. It was rich and pure and powerful, filling the entire room with a warmth that seemed to wrap around every person there. That saved a wretch like me. The change in the audience was immediate and startling. The rustling of programs stopped. The quiet conversations died away. Even the crying baby seemed to pause and listen. It was as if Maya's voice had cast a spell over the entire room, demanding attention not through volume but through sheer beauty. In the front row, Jessica's smirk began to fade. The phone in her hand started to lower as she found herself drawn into the song despite herself. This wasn't what was supposed to happen. Maya was supposed to be terrible, embarrassing, laughable, but this voice was extraordinary. "I once was lost, but now am found." Maya's confidence grew with each note. The nervousness was melting away, replaced by the pure joy of doing what she loved most in the world. Her voice soared through the familiar melody, each word carrying the weight of genuine emotion and years of practice in her little bedroom. Her mother, Lisa, sat in the middle section with tears already streaming down her face. She had heard Maya, practice at home, of course. But hearing her daughter's voice fill this large space, watching her command the attention of hundreds of people, was overwhelming. This was her little girl, the quiet child who barely spoke above a whisper, now holding an entire auditorium captive with her gift. Was blind, but now I see. As Maya continued into the second verse, something magical began to happen in the audience. People who had come expecting to be entertained by their own children's performances found themselves completely absorbed in this unexpected talent. Grandparents who remembered singing this same hymn in church decades ago felt their eyes welling up with emotion. Parents found themselves thinking about their own childhoods, their own dreams, their own moments of discovering something beautiful. The acoustics of the auditorium seemed designed for Maya's voice. Every note carried perfectly to the back row. Every breath was audible. Every emotion was transmitted directly to the hearts of the listeners. It wasn't just singing. It was storytelling, healing, and magic all rolled into one incredible performance. Mrs. Rodriguez stood at the side of the stage, her mouth slightly open in amazement. In all her years of teaching, she had never witnessed anything quite like this. She had known Maya was quiet and well-behaved, but she had no idea the child possessed such an extraordinary gift. She made a mental note to talk to Maya about joining the school choir, about nurturing this talent, about making sure this voice didn't go to waste. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear. By the third verse, there wasn't a dry eye in the Tew house. Tough fathers who rarely showed emotion found themselves wiping away tears. Teenagers who had come reluctantly with their families put down their phones and actually listened. Little children who usually fidgeted during performances sat perfectly still, mesmerized by the beautiful sounds filling the air around them. Chloe and Ashley, sitting on either side of Jessica in the front row, had completely forgotten about their cruel plan. The phones they had brought to record Maya's humiliation now lay forgotten in their laps, as they found themselves caught up in the power of her performance. This wasn't the disaster they had orchestrated. This was something beautiful, something real, something that made them feel small and ashamed of what they had tried to do. And grace my fears relieved. Maya's voice had found its perfect groove now. She wasn't thinking about technique or hitting the right notes anymore. She was simply letting the music flow through her the way it always did in her bedroom, the way it had when she sang with her grandmother. Her voice carried the pain of loss, the hope of faith, and the pure joy of sharing something beautiful with others. In the back of the auditorium, the school janitor had stopped cleaning to listen. The security guard who was supposed to be patrolling the parking lot had quietly slipped inside to hear what was causing such a profound silence. Even the kitchen staff who were cleaning up from the pre-show dinner had paused in their work to listen to this unexpected gift. How precious did that grace appear. As Maya approached the final verse, her voice seemed to gain even more power and depth. It was as if she was channeling not just her own emotions, but the emotions of everyone who had ever found comfort in this timeless song. Her grandmother's love, her mother's pride, her own courage. It all poured out through her voice and into the hearts of everyone listening. The hour I first believed. When Maya sang the final notes of the song, her voice soaring to heights that seemed impossible for someone so young, the auditorium fell into a silence so complete it was almost sacred. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Nobody wanted to break the spell that this quiet little girl had cast over them all. Then, like a dam bursting, the applause began. It started with one person clapping, then two. Then suddenly the entire auditorium erupted in the loudest, most enthusiastic applause anyone had ever heard at a school talent show. People jumped to their feet, tears streaming down their faces, clapping until their hands hurt. Maya stood at the microphone, blinking in surprise at the response. This wasn't the polite, obligatory applause she had expected. This was something else entirely. This was recognition, appreciation, and pure joy at witnessing something truly special. In the front row, Jessica sat with tears on her cheeks, her phone lying forgotten in her lap. The cruel plan she had hatched seemed like something from another lifetime, something done by a different person. She felt ashamed and amazed at the same time, realizing that she had tried to humiliate someone who possessed a gift more beautiful than anything she could have imagined. The applause went on, with people whistling and cheering and calling out words of praise. Maya's mother was sobbing with pride, and Mrs. Rodriguez was clapping so hard she thought her hands might fall off. Even the other children who were supposed to perform after Maya found themselves cheering for this girl, who had just shown them what real talent looked like. As Maya finally stepped back from the microphone and gave a small, shy bow, she felt something inside her change forever. The invisible girl was gone. In her place stood someone who knew her own worth, someone who had shared her gift with the world and been embraced for it. She would never again doubt the power of her voice or the value of her dreams. The quiet girl in the corner had found her place in the spotlight, and nothing would ever be the same again.